Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
And let's talk about what lessons have found.
Let's hang out.
And let's listen to 2 lesbians shout.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Let's Hang Out, the podcast that wants you to go where they always know your name.
And they're always glad you're gay.
Amazing.
You're
I love
welcome.
it. From the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida.
And from the West Coast, I'm Lee Holmes Foster.
To those of you who have been with us through this whole journey, thank you as always for listening. And if you're a new listener, welcome. We're excited to have you here. And here's what's happening this week.
This week in the Lesdom.
This Week in the Lesdom is somewhere we can touch base each episode about things going on with the podcast or otherwise. The first thing that I want to talk about is our Klexicon show, which is coming up this Friday at Klexicon, and we are so excited to announce our guests, who are Amber freaking Benson of Buffy fame, who will be talking about the sexual tension between Buffy and Faith, because what else would Amber Benson talk about on a Les Hangout Should Have Been Gay? And Kia Barnes, who is an amazing comedian, and she will also be doing the Ships and Giggles show at Klexicon. So we're so excited to have them both there. If you're going to be at Klexicon, you can hear that at 4:15 on Friday. So make sure you keep that slot free on your schedule. And if you're not going to be at Klexicon, don't worry. We will have that show available as a recording to release later. So you will get to hear it. Don't worry. And we are so excited for everyone to be there and to hear it after the fact. We are also doing our next Les Essentials watch party for none other than The Favorite, which we are so excited about. We're going to be doing it live at Klexicon in one of our hotel rooms, so hopefully we'll have some of you actually join us in person. We'll also be streaming it on Rabbit like we usually do, so if you can't make it, you can still do it virtually online. If you want to join that, you have to join our Patreon at bit.ly/lespatreon. It's one of our favorite Patreon perks. We love watching all of these lesbian movies with you all, and we hope more of you will join us. In terms of the greater Les universe, the Barbell series premieres this Wednesday. First 3 episodes dropping on Kinda TV. I got to go to the season 2 premiere in Toronto this past weekend. It was so much fun. I finally got to meet Karen and Gwen in person. So cool, and so many of you. I met so many of our listeners, which was really, really cool. And just so exciting that people know who we are. And have enjoyed the podcast. So I want to say thank you to all of the listeners that I met there, especially a big shout out to Kayla Kelly, who's one of our favorite patrons, and I finally got to meet her in person as well. That's This Week in the Lesdom. Back to you, Ellie and Lee.
Thanks, Ellie and Lee. We are so excited to bring you episode 16 of season 2, Raising the Bar, with the Weekend Soiree.
That's right. We're here with Mary Fuller. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on Mary. Mary lives in Detroit, where she currently works as a licensing executive for Microsoft, and she's also the co-founder of the Weekend Soiree. And she's here today to talk about what you can expect at this year's Bedlam in the Big Easy event.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. We are so pumped to have you here.
And one thing that I want to make sure everyone knows is that you can expect Lee and I at this year's Bedlam in the Big Easy as well. So we are beyond excited.
Yeah, we are so
And
excited
very
to have
happy
you
to have
guys.
you here.
We've been fans of your show for about the past year. So yeah, we're really excited to have you guys. We went to see the live show in Brooklyn too. So you guys will be a welcome addition to our lineup, and we're really pumped.
Yes, we are so excited.
For people who aren't familiar with it, can you give us a little quick rundown intro of what the Weekend Soiree is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Weekend Soiree is a 4-day destination retreat for queer women, and that includes non-binary folks. So essentially, my business partner and I, who couldn't be here today, unfortunately, but Imani Grant, who goes by Grant, we went to business school together, and we found ourselves really staying in touch by going to different events throughout the country after we graduated. And they most often were 2 different types of events. So either professional conferences or like big party weekends, which were awesome. But kind of there was something missing from each. So when we were at the conferences, there were never any like nighttime activities scheduled or social events to kind of capture all the folks that were in town specifically for that conference, and really had a bunch in common. On the flip side, if we were at those party weekends, there was really nothing scheduled during the day. So we'd wake up and be like, awesome, party at 10, can't wait for the club, but what do we do for the next 12 hours? And we found ourselves scheduling different activities with our other friends that had also traveled to that city for that party weekend. So one time when we were riding back, we were like, what if we just created a single event that combined the two? So the weekend is packed with over 50 different types of events, workouts, workshops, panels, comedy shows, nighttime activities. It's really, you can find something you like no matter who you are at the Weekend Soiree.
It's like the mullet of retreats. It's like business up front, party at night.
Totally.
Did you come prepped with that, Lee? That was amazing.
I didn't. I'm just that funny. I'm just that good.
It is exactly like that. It's a mullet.
I love that so much. I'm a music festival type person. Like, I love going to music festivals, and I get a little bit of a Bonnaroo vibe from the Weekend Soiree in the way that, yes, you're there to experience music and have fun, and of course, like, you're partying at Bonnaroo, but there's also this piece of it that's very community built.
Yeah. Exactly.
And like that, I definitely get that vibe just from seeing all of the events that you have, like even like the workouts and stuff like this. Like when I went to Bonnaroo, there was yoga in the morning,
exactly.
You know, and then Big Frida taught us how to twerk.
Yes, so we're gonna have a bounce class this year at our upcoming event. It's gonna be awesome. Yoga in the morning. Workouts provided by Cart of the Body. She did like a morning build your booty and your body kind of workout thing in the morning, and then you go right into breakfast and then the session starts. So it's totally that type of vibe. Yeah. And it's nonstop. So you really, I mean, and it's cool to see there are people that like, you know, met people they dated there or people that became friends, and it's really for that. So it's meant to be able to build community. But it's a lot jam-packed in one weekend. So by Sunday, you're tapped out.
Yeah. Lee was talking earlier. She's like, 3 party nights in a row. I don't know if
I'm not cut out for that anymore. I don't leave my house.
Exactly. But we build it specifically too so that you can opt out of those like bigger party nights. So we have like little mixers in the middle so that if you want to kind of mingle and meet people and network, but you don't necessarily want to go to the nighttime thing, you don't have to. So it's built for those types, because I'm not a nighttime person either. Although I did cut up at this last one and I likely will again. I'll reserve it for one night. I can't do 3 in a row either.
We're going to dive back into the Weekend Soiree a little bit more later on in the episode, but for now, what we want to do is we want to start out just talking a little bit about, I think, sort of the underlying reason behind the Weekend Soiree, which is having queer spaces. I mean, obviously, you know, I think there's this whole idea of saying, like, let's do cool workshop-y daytime stuff and cool, fun evening party stuff, but there's a specific decision to have that be a space for queer folk. So why are queer spaces so important? What's the motivation to have something like that for the Weekend Soiree and for other places? Yeah,
so that was definitely a driving factor in our decision to create something like this. You know, throughout the country, you see the disappearance of queer spaces, especially women's spaces, at a faster rate than men's. And part of that is due to progress because, you know, obviously with becoming more accepting of queer folks, you see straight spots really getting integrated. So Gay people feeling totally comfortable to either go out to dinner here or grab drinks here. And so some people are like, hey, it's actually a good sign that we don't need those. But on the flip side, when you don't have people frequenting or supporting those queer spaces, they can't pay their bills, and then, they're not able
Right.
to sustain themselves. So we were like, all right, how do we kind of combat this? Because we do want to hold those spaces sacred and really make sure that they stay alive, even though the world is becoming more connected and people are traveling everywhere. Being queer, being gay is less taboo. The way we thought we could do it is by kind of creating a virtual community that could sustain itself and kind of grow. So we won't get into this now, but long term, we hope that there are different chapters that spring up and like host similar types of events or weekend soiree branded events. But that's kind of our answer to that problem.
Yeah. Are there queer spaces that you're thinking of in particular that like have closed that you used to go to, wish were still around?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm originally from the East Coast, from Massachusetts. But when I graduated from college, I moved to New York with most of my friends, in Brooklyn specifically. So there are so many cool spots actually in Brooklyn that don't exist anymore. If I think about all the spots we used to go to on a regular basis, like Caddyshack, for example, it was like a 2 or 3 level club in Park Slope. So it was really accessible to everyone. A lot of times you'll see, hey, the newest queer spots kind of open up in like, kind of sketchy or dangerous types of neighborhoods where people can afford the rent or things like that. This was like prime spot where everyone could get to, so it wasn't hard for people from every borough to travel to. So it was really fun, really accessible, and really open to everybody. Great music, great folks. So stuff like that, those types of spaces, that doesn't exist anymore. And then you started seeing people rotate into like the bi-weekly parties and then the monthly parties, and now even those are hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to the Dalloway?
Yes, I did.
I was obsessed with the Dalloway in college. Like I would run from one end of Manhattan to the other to get to the
Yes.
Dalloway. Like it was my favorite space, and it didn't last very long at all. I think it was 2 years max.
Yeah, I think about 2 years. You're right. Cubbyhole still exists, which isn't the same but similar. But so shout out to like Henrietta Hudson, which still exists as well. But they're really the two spots in the city that are holding it down.
Well, I read this article on out.com about how some lesbian bars are surviving and thriving in 2019. And Henrietta Hudson and Ginger's, which is a bar in Brooklyn, were two that were specifically named. I think it's really interesting that New York is a hub for so many lesbian bars. But I think it's also just the fact that there's more people.
Yeah, agree. But even then, when you think about all the ones that existed in like the mid 2000, like the early 2000s, up until about 2010, 12, I mean, New York, that's even, that's a great point right there in terms of the disappearance of those spaces. Like now New York is considered a hub because they have those like 3 or 4 spots. There's one spot in Queens too that is mainly for Latina women, which is awesome that still exists as well. But yeah, like New York is heralded as being like awesome because it has those 4, whereas back in the day it had 20.
Yeah, that is actually really crazy. But it leaves you with all these places that are not in a major city, which is actually where I think queer women need more public spaces because it's probably harder for them to find other queer women. And those are the places that I think really struggle to get a foothold.
Exactly. Here in Detroit, for example, it can be extremely difficult. I live in Detroit now. It can be difficult to kind of meet other queer women because there's no, especially not like a women's bar in Detroit. There's one that kind of opened up recently, but even they aren't open all the time and they have interesting hours. And there's only like one night that's like a monthly night that's actually in the suburbs, not in the city proper. So people say they're opening bars and sometimes they open and last only for a few months. And that's another problem, right? Like, so lesbians, if these spaces do open, we need to support them. And it's hard because we get older and we don't necessarily want to go out every night. But there are different ways. And I think if venues adapted their programming and thought about daytime events or different types of non-drinking events they could do, we'd have more luck in sustaining these long term. But yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. No, I know. I feel like the worst gay right now because there's a new lesbian bar in the city in San Francisco that just opened called Jolene's, and I think it opened like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and I have not been yet because, I literally don't leave my house anymore because my bedtime's at like 8 p.m. Who am I kidding? And I mean, granted, I get the tiny human's a decent excuse, but still, I'm like, I feel like I want to do something, like help support it, because I know it is. It's like, especially in the beginning, like those first couple months can be crucial for any space, and especially in San Francisco. I mean, good Lord, like the turnover on places there is a little fast. It can be fast. Let's put it that way. But also, like, their whole thing seems to be very, like, dance night based, you know? Maybe I'm just getting old and lame. It's not my thing anymore.
I don't think that that's only you, though. That's old and lame. But no, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, there is a reason that spaces that are only dedicated to partying and drinking don't attract a lesbian crowd that can sustain them. Of course, there are people who do that.
Yeah.
But I do think it is really important for us to reevaluate what kind of spaces we can make for ourselves.
Agree.
That people will actually come to.
Agree.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just as simple as thinking about like what you actually like to do yourself. So that sounds really basic and really obvious, but like, you know, people want to learn how to make craft cocktails now, and people want to go to brunch, and people don't want to stay out. So folks are doing cool things. Like Alana from Let's Do Brunch in LA, she does a day party, and she does it on a Saturday, which most people do day parties on Sunday. But it's like, I don't want to close out the weekend. I like my Sundays and blah, blah, blah. So a Saturday day party is cool because people will come out, and you don't have to stay out late, and you can still maximize your weekend. So things like that, I think, are going to become more popular as well.
Yeah, I feel like she also really utilizes the internet. So, like, and building, like you said, building a virtual community. So how do you think people can better do that?
I think one is people should, like you said, create those spaces themselves for themselves and their friends. Like, for example, the reason we created the Weekend Soiree was totally selfish, right? Like, we were just like, this should exist. And neither of us necessarily wanted to build it or had the capacity to, but we were like, it has to be done. So let's be the people that do it. So I think if more people did things like that, or just organize or really use the tools they already have, like meetup.com, set up little outings to connect people. That's such a powerful tool and things like that, where you could just say, hey, let's all go do whiskey tasting or coffee cupping, which is a thing I found out recently.
Wait, what is coffee cupping?
Coffee cupping. It's like coffee tasting. Yeah, it's basically coffee tasting. It's the equivalent, but you're like do it in specific cups that bring out the flavor more or something. I don't know. I was invited. I'm going soon. But yeah, events
Report
like that.
back.
Exactly. Will do. But yeah, I think if people just took a look at their own interests and said like, hey, I love doing yoga. Lots of other gay people love doing yoga. Let's do gay yoga. Or like, hey, you know, I like doing sip and paint events. Let's do a gay sip and paint. Things like that I think could really take off, and people are into it.
Yeah, you know what? I actually just did a gay sip and paint night.
See? Exactly.
But the crazy thing about lesbians, though, I don't know how to exactly remedy this. This is just the case with my friend group. So I used to go out far more often than I do now, because I feel like I went out like every week. I met a few people that I liked. We all just like combined, and we're like, okay, we have 15 people that we like, and these are our friends.
Exactly.
And now we're just going to host our own, I guess that's sort of what you're doing, but like we're going to host our own little parties. So it was, like 12 of us who were just in someone's apartment painting and drinking wine.
Exactly. But then
we were all gay.
That can totally grow if 5 or 10 other groups do that same thing, and then they decide to cooperate or collaborate on an event where everyone can come together, even though they're different kind of subgroups. There's power in numbers there.
Yeah,
so
for
what
sure.
You're saying is lesbians are like exclusive petty bitches. Is that what you're getting at?
No. I'm just saying that hey, before it's too late, people should really take a look at what's going on. And there are some, there are some politics behind it, but on the surface as well. Eventually, if we have no spaces left, it's definitely going to be a problem. And there's a reason that our community has, really been so close-knit for so long, is that we were able to, when there were different types of social or political pressures on our, common groups, we were able to kind of go underground and preserve those spaces. While we have a chance, we should really still focus on doing what we can to create them so that we're not in a situation where there are none left and we have to go back underground with it.
Well, and it's so true because, you were saying a little earlier that part of the reason, and it's an interesting thing because I hadn't even necessarily thought of that as part of the reason that like queer spaces are kind of disappearing, is that it is a lot safer, especially in cities and stuff, for queer people to just go to spaces, like any spaces.
Yeah.
We can be with, the straight people. But at the same time, it's so different. It's so different. There's something about a primarily queer space that just feels different, you know? Like I think it's true of any kind of marginalized identity, that as soon as you surround yourself with other people where you have that in common, like you were saying, spaces that are primarily like Latinx spaces and things like that, like anything where you just all of a sudden realize, oh, hey, we're no longer that minority identity.
Yeah.
Like we're here, we're all here. Here are my people. Like it's so different. It's such a different thing, and it would be, a shame to just kind of lose that. We shouldn't lose that.
Agree. But we're at the point now where we have the ability to kind of take it into our own hands, and so many people are doing it. Not just the folks we've talked about so far, but I think people need to keep doing it, and we ourselves too need to take that initiative. Like if you have your group of 15 friends, even if it's just like, hey, let's all go jet skiing, that's like a gay jet skiing outing,
Yeah.
And it'll be cool to like build community that way on a small scale or on a large scale.
Yeah.
Make everything gay. Make all the spaces
gay. Yeah, exactly.
That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
Sold.
I feel like so often though, people who are not LGBTQ are like, why do you always have to do something gay? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to get that from my friends too, but I'm like, every time you invite me to a different bar or restaurant, I'm not like, oh, why are we going to another straight place? They're like, oh, good point.
My God, I'm going to start saying
like,
that
I can't
all
believe
the
I have
time.
to
Yeah, like
straight
you go to the straight
right
places
now.
99% of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'll be like, we're just getting Indian. And I'll be like, straight Indian food,
Yeah.
God, who wants this crap? I want my Indian food gay, or I don't want it at all.
Exactly.
Yes. If you're in a relationship, or even if you're not, like, if you are trying to be romantic with anyone, sometimes I even feel uncomfortable holding my girlfriend's hand, like walking down the streets of Boston. And I'm like, how am I checking myself right now because I'm in a restaurant downtown that is a straight restaurant versus in a gay space?
So true.
And it's like, I can't imagine what it feels like to live somewhere and there are plenty of places in the United States where you feel uncomfortable being with your partner everywhere. That's not your house.
Exactly. Or even if it's not with your partner, if it's by yourself. We had a lot of these conversations too when we were creating the Weekend Soiree and thinking about the person that we were building it for. We kept coming back to this term of the only. These people that like kind of travel out into the world and you land in different cities for different reasons. Sometimes you were born there and you stayed there. Sometimes you moved someplace for work. Find yourself being the only person. So sometimes you don't even have that partner that you can rely on. So you might be the only queer person or the only gay person or the only trans person at your job or at your school or in whatever community you're talking about. That was one of the reasons we wanted to make it a traveling event, so that we were like, hey, we want to build something for all the onlys. If they don't have community wherever they're at, they can go to something like this and really build community. And that's a big part of it. It's not just about like, hey, sitting in your desk. Like all of it is interactive, and it's meant to build connections that are sustainable so that people can do these types of traveling things with each other every year and explore new cities so that they have the opportunity to check out what else is out there other than this small place that they might be without access to a bunch of gay culture.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I love that term so much.
Just that as a term, like as a concept, that's awesome.
And I know there are so many people who are listening right now who are onlys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so many people reach out to us and are like, you're my only gay friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, like, crazy. But it's why, number one, I love the internet.
Yeah.
and number two, I just love virtual spaces that we can create these virtual safe spaces, virtual queer spaces where people might not have access otherwise. So I really just love that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you were saying before, that you feel like there's something selfish about saying, hey, we wanted this retreat to exist, so we just made it, like, bah. But, I mean, you're talking to two people who started a podcast because we just thought we were funny that we wanted to put it ourselves. But I think it's a similar thing, as we just said, hey, I wish I had this listen to. I think all Ellie and I have ever tried to do is to just make the podcast that we both wanted to listen to, which I suppose is good because we both do listen to the episodes a lot to edit them and stuff. So it's good that we enjoy it. But I mean, it is. I think there's something about that mentality of saying, hey, this is a space I would want to be in. This is a space I need, and just making that for people.
Exactly.
That's a real thing. And realistically, it's not something that, as nice as many straight people are, it's not something that they're going to do for us.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to do it yourself, Not that I don't love some straight people. They're great.
Yeah, no, my best friend is straight too. We always joke. So when people ask her, because all of her friends are gay, and she just is always at gay events for some reason. Well, not for some reason, because we're all gay. But people are like, so are you gay too? She's like, yes. And I'm like, no, she's not. She's straight. Socially, yes, she's gay. But otherwise, she's straight. People are like, what?
That's really
Yeah.
She's like a high holy day gay. Is that what
She's
that
a
is?
social
Yeah,
gay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So people like her are great.
Well, let's talk more about the weekend soiree specifically. So we've talked a little bit about queer spaces and what we like in them. What are some of the things that you wanted to put in the weekend soiree that make it unique and you feel like don't exist in other queer spaces?
Yeah, so a few things. So the first is that we are so passionate about it being multicultural. I think so often you see groups tend to, and it's, a natural thing, you tend to associate or relate to people that look like you or sound like you or talk like you or had a background similar to yours. But we specifically wanted to make it multicultural, so it didn't focus on one specific subgroup. I think the other thing is it travels around. So the idea is it's going to hit a different city every year. It's a 4-day event. It always will start on a Thursday, always will end on a Sunday. And the first year we set it off in Denver. So that was great. This year we're going to be doing it in New Orleans. And we're going to continue this kind of history with this plan to move it throughout the country so that all these different onlys from all these other places, or even if they're not the onlys, can come and explore new cities together too, because there's something specific about the experience you get when you're exploring something new, learning about a new culture with a group of people that's like really unique, really memorable, and it kind of facilitates that building community type thing. Because no matter what, you end up finding yourself learning new things and experiencing new things with a group of people. So it's kind of unforgettable in that way.
I cannot explain how excited I am
Awesome.
to go to New Orleans.
I've never been to New Orleans and
Me
I've wanted to go
neither.
for so long. I also love, we talked about this before, not on the podcast, a lot of conventions or weekend retreats and stuff like that tend to be in a convention space and you're in a city, but I could not tell you anything about that city.
Yeah.
So how do you incorporate the community and the city that you decide to have the event in?
So great question. In multiple different ways. So one way is in terms of the programming or the notable guests that we have. So this year we have over 40 different notable guests from around the country and from New Orleans presenting either workshops or participating in panels or doing cool things like craft cocktail making, or we have like a cooking class that we'll put on. We like to infuse the event with different professionals from around the country, but also locals who really know that city and can speak to its culture and really give us a taste of what it's like to really be a resident there. So one way is through the notable guests. A second way is through doing events that are off-site. So we like to pick a boutique hotel that is small enough where we can really kind of adapt the atmosphere and kind of take over, to be honest, and have all of these spaces dedicated to us so that even if there are some other resident or hotel guests staying, it really is a weekend soiree event. And for all intents and purposes, that is our physical space. But we also do offsite events at some key cultural kind of institutions, whether that be one of the only surviving lesbian or queer clubs that exist in that city, or other kind of physical destinations that are important to the gay culture in that locale for some reason or another. And then this year we'll be doing something extra fun because we did get feedback from our first one that people wanted even more time to check out the city, is we're building in a self-guided scavenger hunt on the first day. So
Oh my God.
yeah, people are going to want to be there on Thursday because it's going to be fun. And although it's self-guided, people will be doing it in groups. Again, we want people to be able to like go to a mixer, find their group if they didn't come with one, and then hit the town and start checking it out. We'll be building the guide, but people will be able to do it themselves or with us. So That's another way.
Look,
That's
there is
amazing.
nothing a competitive nerd like me likes more than a good scavenger hunt.
I love it.
okay?
I
I'm so
love
excited.
scavenger hunts.
Ah.
I've done a few with my friend group. Like I put them together. Like we made booklets. It was intense.
I love it. We're going to have prizes,
we did one
too.
in Boston when we used
Oh
to
my
live in
God,
Boston,
they're gonna
we
have
did one
prizes,
there.
Lee.
It was crazy.
We're going to
Like a
have
whole city.
We're going to have prizes for the competitive nerds like yourself.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, because Ellie and I have definitely been checking out the schedule and we're a little excited. Although I have a really important question, which is what is the Healing Village?
Yes. So another thing that we like to do is to create physical space within the hotel that is in the past we just did it in terms of vending. So we invited a lot of local queer artists or vendors to bring their products so that they could share them with the group, and if people wanted to purchase them they could. It was a good way for people to feel good about where their dollar is going and support local queer businesses. This year specifically, we are making sure that a portion of that physical space that we carve out is dedicated to healing and wellness. So whether that be massage therapy going on or meditation or mindfulness trainings, things like that, all of that will take place in the Healing Village. So when we think about all the different types of events that are going to go on throughout the weekend, there are really 3 tracks that we call them. So there's like the healing and wellness track, and then there's the creative juices kind of track where we'll do Gay Sip and Paint with the Muses. Really great artistic couple. They were with us for our first event in Denver. They're joining us again this year. Awesome. And then the Mind Over Matter, which is the the workshops and the more cerebral type nerdy stuff.
Nice. Are we part of the nerdy stuff?
Definitely.
I feel like I don't belong anywhere else is the real
I was like, I
answer
figure
there.
that's probably where we're at.
You mentioned the Muses. Who else were some of your favorite guests from the first year, from last year?
Oh, we
Or
had,
some of the people you're looking forward to this year, either one.
yeah, so I'll need to be a little bit more hush about the notable guests. We're in the process of signing all of our
Okay.
agreements and finalizing them.
We'll do last year.
Last year we had Carter the Body hosting those workshops, those Build Your Booty work camps. We had the Muses do the Sip and Paint event. It actually was so popular on the first day that, like, on the spot, we decided to negotiate a second one for the Saturday because so many people were like, oh no, because there were only so many slots that they could do.
Yeah.
Because we had to prepare like the easels and the canvases and all the paints and everything. So there were so many people that showed up from Denver, or folks that like maybe flew in Friday night that didn't get to participate on Friday during the day, that we ended up hosting a second one. So people like on the last day were like, you have to have them again. So we like negotiated with them right there on the spot. Like, you have to come back to the second one. So they were like, so that was
That's awesome.
Yeah. Kia Comedy, who's a comedian based out of Atlanta. She also does the Andro Fashion Show, which is awesome. They work with a lot of great brands that support queer folks. Yeah, she's hilarious. So that was really funny. Liliana Cervantes, who is also a comedian based out of LA. She brought the house down. Super funny. But those are
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And as we head into Thanksgiving time, I want to start by thanking my wife, Kelsey, who has not only listened to just about every episode of this podcast for 8 seasons now, but who also is the only reason I'm able to make time to record it every week. She takes the kids, gets them dinner, and gets them ready for bed just so that Ellie and I can come on and yell about gay things into each other's faces for an hour. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people you're grateful for in your life, including yourself. I've been in therapy for a long time now, and one thing that's so important about therapy is how it teaches you to be more intentional. And being intentional about gratitude and how to show that to the people you appreciate is just one of the many benefits that I've gotten from therapy over the years. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, consider giving BetterHelp a try. I know how hard it can be to find time for regular therapy, and BetterHelp is designed to be flexible and convenient for your schedule. You can fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you want to start being more intentional about gratitude in your life, visit betterhelp.com/letshangout today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/letshangout.
Let's hang out.
For many businesses, the holiday season can be both an exciting and stressful time. With so many balls in the air, one thing you definitely want to know you can rely on is how you're selling your products. And with Shopify, you can rest easy knowing it's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, and when it comes to successful brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, an often overlooked secret is all the things that go on behind the scenes that make selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, if you take a peek behind that curtain, you'll see that Shopify is what makes it all possible. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, so that's more happy customers and way more sales going. It's true all the time, but especially this time of year, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use for Realm merch with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Hey, do you like true crime? Me too. And I know what you're thinking. There's so many true crime pods out there, you've already heard all the stories. Well, what if I were to tell you you're wrong? I'm Leroy Luna, the host of Excuse Me, That's Illegal, the podcast that takes a hardcore look at softcore crime. I've got a back catalog of hundreds of bizarre and hilarious stories just waiting to be heard by you. So come join me. Excuse Me, That's Illegal is available anywhere you get your favorite podcasts, with new episodes dropping on the 10th, 20th, and 30th every month, baby!
Ladies and gentlemen.
What are you doing?
What do you mean?
Just keep it simple.
I'm making the promo.
Just keep it simple. Just say, hey, we're the Brav Bros. Two guys that talk about Bravo.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're the Brav Bros.
No.
Oh.
Dude, stop with the voice. Just keep it simple.
I've seen promos on TV, dude. This is how you get the fans engaged. This is how you get listeners. We're trying to get listeners here. If we just say, oh, we're two dudes that talk about Bravo, people are going to get tired of it already. We need some oomph.
All right, then fine. Let's try to do it with your voice.
Brav Bros.
Good job.
Just a few.
Nice. What are some of the things that you feel like, obviously, like last year was a success, but of course you learn as you go. So what are some things that you're doing differently this second year that you're excited about?
Yeah. So another great one. This is also a difficult one. This touches on one of the questions you asked me earlier about how we incorporate the city into the weekend. It's actually interesting feedback. We were nerds about it, so we decided to survey everybody on the last day to be like, what'd you like? What'd you not like? Blah, blah, blah. So everyone that we gave the survey to really answered. We had a really great response rate, but people were split down the middle. And that's always so hard when you do a survey because you're like, I was hoping for some insights from this. But so people were split down the middle on a few key questions. One was like about the length of the workshops and having more workshops or less. Everyone was like, or 50% of the people were like, we want more workshops, more workshops, more workshops. And the other 50 were like, love the workshops, but we wanted a little bit more time to explore the city. That's why we decided to do it the way we did, where we were like, let's build in some more time, but let's do it in a structured way so that people don't feel like they're just left to their own devices and they've traveled down all this way and they don't have, a guide to check out this new city. So those are two of the things. So we will have more workshops, and we're dividing them into those 3 tracks that I mentioned specifically for that reason, so that people can kind of pick and choose what types of things they want to do. And there'll be more New Orleans things infused. So one of the things I'm most excited about is the bounce class that we're going to do. That's going to be wild. I'm not going to say like who we're working with to lead it or anything, but that's going to be pretty rad. And then, it's New Orleans, so you have to, there's so much to work with when you're talking about a city with so much history and culture. The welcome party is going to be wild. We're going to have a creepy carnival night with even more performers than we had at we had a burlesque show last year on the Friday night of the weekend soiree. We'll do a similar thing, but the show is going to be like well produced and it's going to be bigger and better. So that's going to be really cool. And the comedy show was stacked. So last year, I think we're doubling the number of comics that we had when we look at last year to this year. It's going to be wild.
Did we mention that it kicks off literally on Halloween? There's no possibility I could be more excited for all of this. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so good.
When we're even planning the party, we're just like, can't deal. It's wild. Yeah, I don't even know if I'll be able to make it through the whole party, but it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
We've talked about the importance of internet spaces, how valuable that is, but there's just, there is something about looking forward to like a whole weekend shebang with a bunch of queer women that I just cannot wait.
No.
Cannot wait.
And non-binary folks.
Yes. Exactly.
Just all the queer people. I want them all the time.
And everyone was so cool. You know how some events can be like so uptight or kind of standoffish or cliquish? That was not the vibe. And I think from the top to the bottom, people helped to set that tone. So all of the notable guests that held sessions or performed in some way or led something, they were totally into the weekend soiree as well. Like they attended all the workshops and they went to all the different events. And so they were weekenders as well. They were just as interested in the event. So that was really cool. Like, these cool queer icons that we all look up to, just mixing and mingling with everyone. So there were just like no airs throughout the entire weekend. And everyone was so cool. And the vibe was so great. It was cool.
Well, and I feel like that's what you're going to get when you have a space like that, but B, one that is intentionally highlighting queer people as well, Because I think the other thing is realistically that it is the case that there's a lot of queer events that still sort of center around straight people, I mean, whether it's Pride, things like that, like it's something that you hear a lot, where people are like, oh, you're having a Pride event and you're going to charge all the queer people money to come see like your big straight headlining act, because they're popular. And I get it. I mean, I understand, but I think it is going to create a different interaction when the people that are there, to lead workshops or to lead mindfulness spaces or to do whatever, when they're also part of that community. I mean, that's totally different. Of course it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm so excited to also be a weekender.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
We were so happy that you guys were like, it was like immediate. We were so pumped about that because we were like kind of geeking out on your show too. We were fans. So it's cool that everyone's going to be excited to have you
there.
We
are so excited.
It's going to be a party.
The one thing that we're not going to get to do this year, not to do a downer, but it kind of touches on what we talked about earlier about the musical element and it being similar to like a South by Southwest or a Bonnaroo or something. We really wanted to have a music element or festival type event. And I don't think we'll be able to do it this year. It's definitely going to be in the third year though. So it's something to look forward to. If we can make it happen this year, but we're like at this point the schedule is too packed.
Have you met Ellie? Just hand the girl a mic.
I'm like,
I know.
Just give me a mic.
Or more accurately, give Ellie like a drink and give her anywhere near a mic,
machine?
and you might not be able to stop her. I think.
I love it. Well, I'm gonna rope you guys both into because we can't do it. I think we're gonna have an open mic section this year, and if we do, I'm gonna force you both.
Stop it.
To kick us off. Yes.
Push us.
You don't need to force me.
No.
She's like, I'll force you. I'm like, I have my guitar. I'll bring. Oh, I want Lee to have a cajon. You know what? Those little like drums you sit on.
Oh yes.
Ellie, I'll learn to play one just for you, just for the weekend. Okay.
Amazing.
Hilarious.
I'm so ready.
I feel like if you had a music festival component, you would just need to have a music festival, and then like a separate weekend.
Exactly.
Like it's. Because that is a lot.
Yeah. So the hope is, maybe someday if we get big enough, we can do offshoot events.
That's really awesome. I love that so much. That would be my two favorite things
right?
put together.
Can you imagine? Or like a film. We may be able to incorporate a film element this year, but like a film element or some sort of a festival would be awesome as well. Although I think there are already groups that do that really well. So be interesting to see how we incorporate something like that.
That's awesome. Lee,
yes.
Is it time?
Oh, it just might be time. Are you ready, Mary?
I'm ready.
For our favorite segment?
Yes.
Q and gay.
Q and gay.
Do some Q and gay. So, you've listened to the podcast. They're easy, multiple choice, yes or no questions. And we will put them up on our Twitter so that our listeners can chime in as well. So some of these, obviously, we will have already covered. But that's okay. You can answer again for the record, officially. Let's take it away. Question 1. Have you ever been to a lesbian bar?
No. Just kidding. Yes.
But you said it so convincing.
I know. That was good, right?
Someone listening is going to be like, what?
Wait, what? All right. Number 2. What is your favorite type of queer space? A, bar, B, cafe, C, bookstore, and D, which I feel like needs some explanation. It's queerioke.
How does that need explanation? What is not self-explanatory about that?
That's pretty
Well,
awesome.
because it's an event in Boston. I don't know if they have
Other
queerioke
places have
other places.
queeriokes.
Oh, they do? All right, well.
Yeah. I mean,
also, even if they didn't, how does the name
I-
not give it away?
You're right.
I mean,
you're right.
queerioke is pretty awesome, but I would have to go with cafe.
Yeah, more of the daytime space, a little bit more all-purpose.
Yeah, and I'm a foodie too, so I'll be like, or I'm an eater, I should say, not a foodie.
Yeah, where's our like gay restaurants?
What's the difference
right?
between eater and foodie?
I feel like foodies are really well versed in the types of food they're eating, and food eaters are just eating it. They're not necessarily like, I'm willing to consume the information. I likely won't retain it because I'll be like, oh, so good. Yeah,
That makes sense.
That's 100% me as well. I enjoy food. That's about it.
Yeah.
Number 3, have you ever been to a queer retreat?
yes.
Oh, I'm so excited to say yes soon.
Yes. All right, number 4. Do you prefer brick and mortar queer spaces or online queer spaces?
Probably brick and mortar.
Or a combination of the two?
Combination. If that was a C, I would go C.
Okay, I'll add
Nice.
it. I'll add it as option C. Brick and mortar queer spaces with a really good online presence.
Yes.
C.
Like brick and mortar spaces that know how to work a meme.
Yes.
That's me
Yeah.
right there.
Excellent. Okay, question 5, last question. What are you most looking forward to at this year's weekend soiree? Out of the following, A, the workshops, B, shop and sip, C, the Healing Village, or D, Halloween in the Big Easy.
I mean, although I've matured a bit and I don't party as much as I did in my younger days, I'm going to have to go with the Halloween party, Halloweezy and the Big Easy. It's gonna go. It's gonna be pretty awesome.
It's going to be so great.
I'm gonna bust
I'm
out my
also really
partying
excited for
chops
that.
just for this.
Also, Halloween's my favorite holiday. I feel like it's gay Christmas.
Right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to love Halloween.
Is there a
Yeah.
costume? We didn't even talk about this. Is there a costume component? Are we supposed to be dressing up?
So we even got that covered.
Oh my god.
So
My heart. Be still my heart.
but if you have a costume already in advance that you love, bring it and rock it. It's going to be totally well received. People I think are going to dress up for this one. But you don't have to fret if you don't have a costume and you kind of realize last minute, like, oh man, I came all the way to New Orleans. Number 1, New Orleans is a great city to buy costumes, obviously. But 2, we're going to have a solution built in for people that maybe want to do a last minute kind of thing. I can't give too much away, but we'll have a solution
I'm
for
excited.
people. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because really, here's the problem that I run into every year at Halloween. So, A, my wife is not like a huge person for costumes. It's like not her favorite. Also, she hates masks. So Halloween is like meh, like hit or miss with her. And so every time that I want to dress up, all of the costumes that I think, because I'm so nerdy and gay, so all of the costumes that I would think of are like so niche. They're like so specific fandoms or specific shows. And I'm like, no one's gonna get this costume ever. Like I'm gonna dress up as this like one character in this like web series that no one's ever seen, except for like every gay person on Twitter. So I feel like this is really my Halloween
This is your
to
moment.
shine. Like this is my chance. I have to just like pick one.
I think
It really
there's a
is.
good chance that at least one person knows who you are.
Exactly. Oh my god! Or Ellie, you and I can finally cosplay Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah, we probably should do a couple's costume. Let's be real.
Amazing. I also think because it's Halloween weekend that people might dress up for more than just Thursday night, but that's just an inkling that I have. Yeah.
Unreal. Remember that you can also give us your own questions to this episode's Q&A on our Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
Answers. Give us your answers.
I'm so excited. So, where can our audience find the Weekend Soiree?
So we are on Instagram at The Weekend Soiree, which is TheWeekendSoiree. Our website is the same, theweekendsoiree.com. We have a Twitter, but we don't really use it as much. And then our Facebook is The Weekend Soiree Women Nick. So TheweekenSoiree.Soirewomxn.
Nice. Nice.
Honestly, necessary to make sure you spell it out.
I know.
Like,
So
rewind the 15 seconds again if you need to hear that one more time. It's okay.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no, you guys might be able to cut it out. So when we've been doing it the past couple times, Coke and Imani do it that way. So I copied them.
No, it's
I'm
definitely
usually
a
not
good
the person
idea.
that does it.
It is a good idea because soiree, I feel like, is a hard word to spell if it's not a word that's like in your vocabulary.
Yeah. So we started going by TWS more, but then we were like, when we just did a new logo and we were like, hey, we should also include the spelling so it becomes more ingrained. So now our logo includes the letters and the spelling, but they're both versions so people can decide which they want to call it.
Amazing.
If you're like not a nerd who grew up in France, spell it out. That's fine.
So funny story, I hated the idea of the soiree being an entire weekend because I was a French major. And it really, like, in the beginning, I was like, I love the ring of it, but it really bothers me at the core because the soiree is not an entire weekend. But I did this joke.
But you call it the weekend soiree. I think it prefaces it. It's
After
fine.
you go to one, though, you'll realize that a soiree can be a whole weekend.
Amazing. So just to be clear also for our listeners, what are the dates of the weekend soiree?
So it's from October 31st, which is a Thursday. That's Halloween night, up until that Sunday, November 3rd.
And it's in New Orleans. We have said that many times. So there are still tickets available, correct?
But yeah, tickets are available on our website or on Eventbrite.
Great.
Amazing.
Great.
So if you were just looking for like more opportunities to come hang with me and Ellie, this is one of them. Also, we are going to have some of the Weekend Soiree crew taking over our Instagram this week for a little story takeover. So if you have more questions about the Weekend Soiree or about queer spaces, send us those questions.
Yes. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Mary. This has been amazing.
No, thank you
We are
guys. I
so
cannot wait to hang with you in
excited.
New Orleans.
Let me hear you say hip, 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 well, yeah.
We love hearing from you and building community, so we want to shout out some of our favorite things each episode. And my favorite thing has got to be the Barbell premiere that I went to last weekend. I finally got to meet Karen and Gwen in person, grab brunch with them. They are so lovely, even in person, even when every person is there for them. They made time for every person who came to the premiere, and I just think that's really amazing. But some of my favorite people had to be all of the people that I got to hang out with. Some listeners, some new friends, and I want to shout out everyone, and I'm going to try to remember everyone's names because there were a lot of people there. One of them even came all the way from England, which is crazy. But I want to give a shout out to N, Tanisha, Liz, Melissa, Champ, Rachel, Beth, and of course, Kayla Kelly, who is one of my favorite Lesbian Jesus patrons. She was so kind and so fun to hang out with. I got to the airport far earlier than I could check into my Airbnb, and she let me come and crash at her beautiful hotel. I got to sleep for a few extra hours so I could survive the day. And she was just so much fun to hang out with. So I'm so happy that I finally got to meet her in person, and I hope there are many more hangouts just like that. And while we're talking about Lesbian Jesus patrons, we have to shout out our top tier Lesbian Jesus patrons: Amy and Ellen, Kayla Kelly, Lizette Stye, Tanya Ferguson, Jess Klaus, Danny Griswold, Michelle Ray Thomas, Sarah and Julia, Nicole Gross, and Mark Foster. We have so many of you, and it is really incredible, and you are really what helps make us do all these amazing things with the podcast, like Klexicon that we're going to next week, completely funded by you. So thank you so much. We cannot tell you how much it means. We cannot tell you how much it means that you support us. So thank you so much. We could not do it without you.
And remember, you can also find us on all the social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Let's Hang Out Pod.
You can send us an email at letshangoutpod@gmail.com.
Or you can check out our website at letshangoutpod.com.
Make sure that you subscribe to us on whatever app you use to listen to podcasts so that you get new episodes as soon as they drop.
And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/letshangoutpod. We just released a new Renegade covers video, which we are really excited about, for Shallow from A Star Is Born, with one of my good friends, Denise. She's the one with the crazy hair, and she's the best.
And they crushed it.
That also does lead us to If you want to get that download of the Renegade Covers song, you can become a patron at bit.ly/lespatreon. At the Lucy Diamond level, you get free downloads of all of our Renegade Covers, MP3s.
Because she's a renegade. Get it?
Get it?
Get it? See what we did there?
Amazing.
There's also other ways that you can help support the podcast. The first one that's so easy, anyone could do it, everyone should do it, is rate and review us on iTunes. It makes such a big difference for helping new people find the podcast and helping us get new listeners.
Yes, and we also have merch, which we will be having at Klexicon. We are so excited. We finally have our first run of actual physical merch, which is huge. So if you're going to be at Klexicon, come to our booth, buy a Les Hangout t-shirt.
Yes.
We're going to have some female gaze shirts that was actually originated by our favorite Barbell ladies on their first episode. Bringing it all around. And if you're not going to be at Klexicon, you can get it at bit.ly/lesshop.
Yes, so we are going to have very limited availability of stuff. You'll want to get there, get your hands on some swag before we run out. So don't miss out. We're excited. And finally, if you want to help support the Trevor Project, you can donate at this link, bit.ly/lestrevor.
And if you want to find us individually, you can find me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at LSH Foster.
And with that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart Robbins, and I am the host and creator of the podcast Only One in the Room. Every week, my co-host Scott Slaughter and I invite you to join us and lose yourself in someone's incredible Only One story. We talk to real people dealing with issues like infertility, the death of a loved one, human trafficking, and women who, fake it. Oh, and we want to be fair, so we talk to celebrities too. Emmy winners like actor John Cryer, supermodels like Amber Valletta, and rock stars like Ryan Dusick. Everyone is invited to share their Only One story with our listeners. With 21 seasons and counting, we guarantee you that Only One in the Room has a story that you'll connect with. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone. Download Only One in the Room on Apple or Spotify today.